Dave?
I know.
I'm really sorry about the delay, and
It's all right.
I actually have something that started at 5:30, but I'll stay. But yeah, I'm not going to make it, I don't think.
I have enjoyed listening, actually, and we're often confused with neighbourhood support, so it's quite funny that they're just before us, and actually we've been working with Dave on an emergency response plan for the northeast Christchurch area. So as Neighbourhood Trust, we are working in the Shirley Mariho area, and but we do work with a lot of different organisations, so we're a very collaborative group. We're part of 8 clusters in the northern part of Christchurch that was set up by MSD. We're part of the network in Shirley, we're part of the network in Papanui, we're part of a Connect group, which is across the city. We run Parenting Week every second year with about 100 other organisations on board for that. So although we're focused in a particular area, we do actually work across the city and have a lot of contact with other groups around the place. So thank you very much for allowing me to have this time. I believe that the council has got very good people in it. When I see things about what you're doing, good brains, good hearts, and I do give you respect for stepping up into leadership at such a time as this. I would not have your job for anything. I think mine's stressful, but yours is far more so. So my comments, while they might seem negative in some ways, are actually around how we work better together, and they're also around making sure that our more vulnerable members of our community actually have a say and have a chance. So my submission is on 3 different areas, and I'll just try to really briefly address those. So the first one was around our concern on the process around the changes to the funding rounds. You've probably had a horde of submissions around it. So my concern is that in your own documents it states, the statement from the Community Outcomes section, page 89, and also the public participation in community and city governance and decision making, dated 24 November 2014, states, decisions are transparent and informed by timely, accurate and robust information and advice, and decisions take account of community views. I feel this didn't actually happen in terms of the changes to the funding, and I'm sure it wasn't intentional, but the impact on groups was actually huge. To actually go onto the council website ready to submit an application and to see the funding round will not open until the LTP and budget has been set, actually left us not knowing what was happening at all. And several people in our cluster rang council and got 3 different actual time frames. One was told 3 months, one was told 6 months, one was saying it may not happen at all. So there was a lot of anxiety for us as groups, and I know several organisations who actually cancelled their plans, cancelled events, simply because they didn't know what was happening. And then when it did open, it said that small grants fund was to be abolished, wouldn't be there anymore. Now that was quite a concern actually as well for us, because we see that the recommendation back in November of last year was that the council would actually have a series more funding rounds and more focused, more responsive and more specific, and yet taking out these small grants. So I'm wondering why that was. There's been nothing on the website about why that decision was actually made, and so it would be really good to have some feedback on that. And the other thing that I'd like to ask is, there were funds of 795,257 allocated for small grants. Where is that going to? Is it going to the Strengthening Communities Fund, or is it going to the discretionary grants, or is it a hidden reduction in funds available to our community groups? So that's a question that I have, and would be really interested to hear a response on. Okay.
So your small grants and your big grants all come together.
Yeah. And is there a reason for that, when the recommendation was for more rounds and smaller?
We can have some more rounds, no problem. But there's a sort of $5,000 cut-off that was fairly arbitrary. So if you want 6,000 or 7,000, where do you go? So if you want 4,900, where do you go? So it was just an ease of operation, basically. It wasn't intended to reduce or any of those things. In fact, quite the opposite. The purpose of the changes was to make it possible for groups to apply for longer periods of time, so you don't have to spend your whole life applying for grants and not having certainty about it. So it was intended to make it as easy as possible for community groups.
Not having come from a local government background, that I was introduced to the concept of making significant changes through activity management plans last year for the first time. And it's not a process that I agree with, and it is something that will change.
It would be great.
That's right. There isn't a reduction. The 2% reduction that was applied was an error. Yeah.
No, I understand.
But you're right that there should have been a communication. So there's a communication learning in all of this, but actually there's a prior engagement one, which is activity management plans shouldn't be used to make major changes that haven't been consulted with community groups.
Yeah, thank you. And the second submission was around public participation in community and city governance, and what I was reading is that the policy is to reduce printed media, which is understandable, and increase digital media to be cost effective. But while this is understandable, in the community in which we work, 33% of the population do not have internet access. And so I'm wondering, would the council consider having free Wi-Fi in targeted community hubs in those areas that have a very low uptake of internet? If most of the information is going to be presented in a digital format, and I mean, you can't even put in your tax return without going online now. You know, if you're in a business and you want to work out what your costs are, you need to go online to ARD and put that in to get it back. And if you do not have access to the internet, this becomes a real problem. If you want to actually put in for an application to work in income, you also need to do that online. It's becoming very difficult to negotiate the world without internet access. I know libraries have it, but if you go into a library, you'll see that they are fully occupied. Every single computer there is fully occupied, and they're reducing the minutes that you can spend on it now. So by the time you've actually found something and worked your way around it, if you're not familiar with actually using the internet, you probably have to go off the machine. So what we're saying is that there are quite a few community hubs around the place, places where people could actually get some of that help from a staff member as well around negotiating those sites. Would the council perhaps consider targeted free Wi-Fi in those places?
Well, I don't think it's Wi-Fi that you're talking about. You're talking about access to the internet.
You need actual hardware.
No, but
Are
you saying that people have got the hardware at home, but they can't afford the internet connection?
A lot of people use their phones now.
Yes, I know.
So if you plug into a Wi-Fi hotspot, then you can use your phone to negotiate those.
Well, all our libraries have got free Wi-Fi, and so's our council buildings. All of our council buildings have.
It's just about locating them in areas where...
No, but we've got free Wi-Fi in all of our buildings. You're asking for free Wi-Fi. We have free Wi-Fi in all our buildings.
Yeah.
Some don't have it, and some do.
No, but sorry, I'm querying, are we talking about access to the internet, which is not necessarily Wi-Fi, it's a computer that you can be on for a while with obviously some guidance from people who can help you negotiate websites that you may be unfamiliar with, like IRD, or are you talking about free Wi-Fi? Because when I said it was the former, you said it was the latter, and I'm saying that actually, all of our buildings have got free Wi-Fi. We've got free Wi-Fi in here.
Yes. I think also the thing is that the areas in which we're working, we've got people who have got low transport ability, and so having more of those areas available. We've got a little place, for example, in Nancy Ave. We're looking at...
In where?
In Nancy Ave, in
Muddyho.
Nancy Ave. Okay. Yeah. So we're looking at free Wi-Fi, but we're also looking at internet access through, so it's actually both,
Yeah,
which is
Yeah.
why it's probably confusing in the way I put it.
no, I understand.
They're two
And,
separate
well,
things.
but we
in some
also,
ways, but-
we had a visit before from Citizens Advice, and they kind of indicated that they'd like space in all of our libraries, which I think is a perfect mix. And maybe it's through that we actually need to have dedicated computer time for people who want to use it for that service provision, because I suspect the ones that are using it more generally in the libraries are using it for research purposes.
I think it's an excellent idea to have some dedicated staff to work with them.
Yeah.
The third part was really about the voices of children, and I don't really see them in the long-term plan. I see them as future ratepayers there, but I find it very hard if I look at a 6-year-old to consider them as a future ratepayer. I'm just wondering what consultation and what kind of engagement with children has occurred to actually look at, most of you probably have children, grandchildren. What's the future city looking like through their lenses, and how do we engage them in that process? We had at our Neighbourhood Community Day recently, we did a survey, and about half the people who responded were children. And what they talked about was the fact that they had nowhere to ride their scooters. They could not scooter to school because the pavements are broken. And I look at the long-term plan and I see, and I know it's huge, I realise that. I know that when I look at it and I see 20, 30, 50 years to repair some back streets, I'm wondering, we've got generations of children growing up, and they're growing up in brokenness, and actually we're seeing a lot of the results of that in their anxiety. And, when you talk to children and they say that they'd like more flowers, an 11-year-old boy who said, I'd like more roses. Shouldn't our children have more roses? And shouldn't they have streets where they can scooter? And I'm wondering if there could be a prioritising of repairs of the footpaths around schools, say 1.5 around schools, because that's walking distance, isn't it? I can walk 1.5 really easy, and I'm old, so other people can. And also around doctors' surgeries, if you look at where there's an over 65s units in there, and there's down the road there's a doctor's surgery, could we not prioritise those places so that our kids can scooter to school, they can bike to school? There's no point in putting in cycleways if children can't learn to ride their bikes, because there's nowhere safe around their own backyard to actually ride. And I'm all for cycleways, don't get me wrong. But I'm looking, is there a way that we can do this, that we can prioritise it, and make sure that our kids have somewhere that's not broken? Because this is what's coming through to me all the time from them. They're worried about it. They're saying they're worried about their houses, they're worried about their streets, and they're worried that they don't have anywhere to chill out. That's what they were telling me. They would love to have a barbecue in the park, and they'd love to have places where they had a covered playground where they could play. And I think we actually owe it to our kiddies. Back early in the 2000s, and Councillor Butt, you will know this, we had an international reputation as a child-friendly city, and I would love to see us have that again.
Very good.
Probably
Yanni,
Yeah, just,
sorry.
just say that we have actually, through the CHED committee, asked for a report back on how we can become more child-friendly again. So we're expecting that in June, and I think if staff could just make sure that you send a copy of that report,
That would be lovely.
you might like to come to that committee.
Great. Look, thank you very much. We appreciate your time, and thank you very much again for waiting so long. Thank you. But I'm glad that you've enjoyed the other submissions.
Yes, really.
Thank you.